Good morning. Today is the 26th of Cheshvan and the 10th of November. We are in our final installment for the Parsha of Chayei, and we're going to end with a very famous verse. This is in chapter 25, verse 6. I'll read it in English. Wrapping up, in a certain sense, you can never really wrap it up, but when the Torah finishes describing Abraham's life, it says that he gave his entire inheritance to Isaac, and he sent the children of the concubines. Who are these concubines? We're not going to get into them right now, but it is mostly, it's understood that this was Hagar, who later was named Keturah, and altogether she and Abraham had 7 children together, most of whom went to the east, as it says. And then it says, Abraham gave gifts to the sons of the concubine, whom Abraham had taken while he was still alive. He sent them eastward to the east, away from his son Isaac. So this is like the second separation that Abraham does to the children of Hagar. At first it was Ishmael, and now it's the other 7 children that she had with him. I believe it's 7, or was it 6? I don't remember. In any case, Rashi says about this, what were these gifts? Rashi quotes, our sages taught us that he gave them a name of impurity. What does that mean, a name of impurity? He gave them some kind of divine name, and he sent them away with this, and this was a gift. What's the idea here? How can Abraham give something that's impure? In other words, he's leading them astray. We understand that he wants to separate them from Isaac, but Abraham has fought his entire life for belief in one God. How could he possibly give them a name that would either confuse them or cause them impurity or anything of that sort? That doesn't make any sense. It's very hard to understand this. And the truth is that until I heard Rav Ginsburg's answer, which is given in some greater length, I'm going to do this a little shorter today because of the time constraint. But before I heard the answer, which appears in length in Wonders this week, I was always troubled by this. And the answer that you usually hear, almost always, is that Abraham gave them some kind of impure name to push them away. Meaning that the impurity was supposed to cause them to be pushed away. Again, this is very baffling, very hard to understand, especially since we know that there is an Abrahamic tradition in the East. We're talking about India, for instance. The highest caste in India, which is considered to be the priests, they're called Brahmins. And many have noted that this is very similar to the name Abraham. An Abrahamic, as it were. There's all kinds of problems in the East, but it's very hard to say that they don't try in some direction to be very spiritual. And though there was idolatry there for many, many generations, and even now you can still find idols everywhere, we tend to say that their idolatry is not the way it was, let's say, 1,000 years ago. That they don't anymore really believe in the separate deities. They only see the separate deities as some kind of like a good luck charm. But what they really believe in the end is some kind of connection to one God. In any case, it's very difficult. Why would Abraham do this? And Rav Ginsburg's answer, I think, is phenomenal. And he says, a name of impurity doesn't imply that the name was impure. That Abraham would never do. What he gave them was a name that was so holy, so pure, that it could survive even in the impure, idolatrous practices of the ancient East. And that this name was very special, and they hold it to this day. And he identifies it with their famous syllable that they say, Om. And he says this thing that they call Om is really one of the 72 names of God. We have something called the name of 72 triplets of letters. And these come out from 3 verses that maybe we'll see them when we get to the book of Exodus in Parashat B'Shalach, just before the splitting of the Red Sea. And these 72 triplets of letters, one of them is Aleph Vav Mem, which, if I would utter it, would be Om. And we even use it during Sukkot, during the Feast of Tabernacles. We say Om Ani Choma, and Om is like a holy name in and of itself. And where does it come out? It comes out from these 3 verses in Parashat B'Shalach in the book of Exodus in chapter 14. And that was its special. Its special quality, that it was able to retain and give the descendants of these sons of the concubines an ability to still hold on to monotheism even within the impurity of the East. And that was like a hidden spark that Abraham put into the Far East, knowing that he would not spread out there easily. But that hidden spark is what brought them to, in the end, as I said, they continue to grow closer and closer on their own. Maybe just by uttering this name all the time, they continue to connect more and more with one God. The name itself is equal to 47. If this is the right name, it's equal to 47, which is the value of self-nullification. And we know that that is what the East is famous for. India and China, and especially Tibet and Nepal, everywhere where you find Hinduism or Buddhism, the thing that you always find attached to that is a doctrine of self-nullification. There is very little what we call lowliness, but there is a great deal of attempt to nullify the self, to get rid of the self entirely. Again, the reason I said there's very little lowliness is because lowliness is what balances the self-nullification. And when you don't have lowliness and you go full swing into the direction of self-nullification, then you begin to develop doctrines of non-attachment, of not investing in this physical world. Whereas the goal, of course, is to have both the spiritual and the physical connected together, and that can only be done when you have balance. So this is a little bit about this name of impurity, as it were, which again means a spark that can sustain itself in its holiness, even in the deepest level of impurity. And this is what Abraham sent into the East, with the hopes of eventually coming to a time when they too will embrace the notion of one God, which again I think is almost, especially by the Brahmins, especially by the people of the higher caste, is clearly what they believe in. And lower down, I actually studied with some of these call it theologians of Hinduism and Buddhism, and we had many interesting discussions about this, and I truly felt that we were saying something very close. Again, there's always the problem of non-attachment. It's a different issue with them, but that the true theologians there understand that God is one, and they only say that for the lower caste, for the simpler people, we have to retain these practices of these idols and these separate deities, but nobody really believes in it anymore. It's more like something like a good luck charm. Thank you very much for joining. Shabbat Shalom to everyone. Should be a great victory over evil. We should be able to bless all those who are fighting against it everywhere in the world. And God willing, we will see a great redemption coming out of all of this. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.